Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and I think that this content will make for a fun video. There's an article titled, "Acquiring XRP at its current price is like buying Bitcoin at $10, crypto enthusiast opines." And to me, and I think it's probably fair to say for a lot of people in the XRP community, the sentiment of this rings true, because we feel like, and I feel like it's somewhat okay for me to speak on behalf of the XRP community. I think it's probably true by and large for most of the individuals listening to this, because this is an XRP-centric channel, that we feel like we found something special, and we found it early on before almost the entirety of the rest of the world. And fine, crypto's been around for a decade, and XRP's been around for about 7 years, or roughly. But in terms of adoption, we're at the very early days of the crypto asset class, certainly, but XRP as well. Most of the world doesn't own Bitcoin. Most, even way fewer, own XRP. It's almost nobody. And given the financial implications of what we're getting at, I think it's fair to say that's probably how, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I feel like that's how most of the XRP community probably feels about this. That's how I perceive it, at least, just reading comments and this and that for 2 years from my fellow XRP community members. And I'm right on board with that line of thinking here. And you can look at what happened in terms of Bitcoin adoption back when Bitcoin was $10. People that know that it would one day be worth at its all-time high close to $20,000, that would have sounded completely bonkers back then. And that's why, similarly, knowing that humans are capable of valuing digital assets, cryptocurrencies at such high levels, even with the supply difference between Bitcoin and XRP, it's interesting to know, since we are 10 years in and we know what happened with Bitcoin, and we know that if there's real adoption with other cryptocurrencies, in this case XRP, it could really be a good thing for us, right? And so, to me, conceptually, this is totally legit to talk about, and I think it makes for fun content. So I'm going to run through this. I've got a Twitter thread on this topic. It stemmed as a result of this topic that I'm going to be sharing with you. And then I got a couple more XRP community member tweets I want to share with you, and then I'm going to wrap up the video with this article from Cointelegraph titled, "IRS Laughs Off Coinbase Users Surveillance Conspiracy in Tax Reporting Case." But before I speak any further on any of these matters, if you would please ever so delicately tap that like button, but don't get smashy with it, because if you break it, you buy it. That is the tough love policy on the Moon Lambo channel. It ain't cool to get smashy with it. And if you are a fan of Ripple and XRP, go ahead and subscribe, because I assure you, there are worse ways to spend your time. Seriously, looking up like goat videos or something like that. So anyway, acquiring XRP at its current price is like buying Bitcoin at $10, crypto enthusiast opines. A lot has been happening within the crypto space, even as the general market outlook looks a little bit bleak due to the current bearish sentiments. Crypto prices have been falling, with Bitcoin leading the plunging wedge. On its part, XRP hasn't been much of a performer either, and lots of its fans have started complaining. However, one crypto enthusiast seems to have nurtured a rather radical opinion regarding XRP. According to The Crypto Candy, as her Twitter handle goes, XRP could be where Bitcoin was a few years ago. In a tweet that has since attracted numerous participants, the aficionado sought to draw a parallel between the XRP market of today and the Bitcoin market of latter days, claiming that buying XRP today is comparable to buying Bitcoin when it was at $10. First off, it's true that Bitcoin fetched just a few cents in market price back in its early days, and that has come to change over the years. Besides being the largest crypto by market cap, Bitcoin is also the most popular as well as the most priced. That's a weird way to phrase that, but okay, it's most priced. Anyway, at the moment, the top coin is going for around $8,500 even as the market slumps. In essence, anyone who invested in Bitcoin during its early days is now loaded. That's literally not true. Most panic sold or sold too early, right? So I dispute that claim, all right? Anyway, the Crypto Candy tries to put XRP in the same bracket, rooting for its exponential growth in the coming years. However, not so many people are buying that opinion. Well, maybe not outside of the XRP community anyway. Since the post went up, various Twitter users have offered their opinions. Some have supported her, and some have disagreed with her assessment. Check this out. Gotta love this stuff. There are those who believe that XRP doesn't offer much and therefore shouldn't be compared to Bitcoin as far as its price potential is concerned. Of course. According to a reply by one of the commenters, check this out, I love this so much. XRP doesn't have scarcity, decentralization, non-censorship factor, or the network effect strong enough compared to Bitcoin. That is complete garbage, but people outside the XRP community, especially if they're part of the Bitcoin maxi tribe, they know the fake stuff they know, right? XRP doesn't have scarcity. This is a concept I love to push back against. So 100 billion XRP versus 21 million Bitcoin. Sounds like a huge disparity, but not so much when you consider that the quantity of drops, which is the smallest unit of 1 XRP, versus the smallest number of Satoshis. That's a small. I'm sorry. That's. Am I saying that right? The smallest. I can't go back and listen to this without stopping recording, which I won't do. But the Satoshi is the smallest unit of 1 Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is actually divisible by 100 million, whereas XRP is only divisible by 1 million. So as a result, if you're comparing drops versus Satoshis, which, trust me, it's going to matter in a world where these cryptocurrencies continue to get adopted, people will be buying at some point, perhaps, part of an XRP. Well, right now it doesn't really make a whole sense. People don't think about it in those terms, but move the decimal places. I'm telling you, eventually, if the price is at a certain point, and it's the same thing that happened with Bitcoin, people are going to start mentally thinking about this differently. They'll be, instead of thinking about XRP versus Bitcoin, they'll be thinking in terms of drops versus Satoshis. Mark my words, if this all continues to get adopted, that's assuming it continues to get wide-scale adoption on a global platform, okay, fine. Assuming that happens, though, that's the way people are going to look at it. And consider this now. There's only roughly 47 times as many XRP drops versus Bitcoin Satoshis. Only about 47 times. So don't tell me that there's a problem with scarcity here, especially when we don't even know the degree to which cryptocurrencies will actually be adopted for utilitarian purposes, purposes of utility, rather. So, you just have to wait and see. Is Ripple going to have wild success? To what degree will Coil's technology be adopted, which utilizes XRP? What about other developers building on top of the ledger? And so you can't know. You also don't know how many people are going to jump in and hold XRP just because they know that others need to use it for their business models. And that's what I'm doing. But think about that. As more time passes, what's that actually going to look like? A lot of the XRP, it's not even going to be for sale on exchange in any given moment. Probably well over 90% at any given moment, it's just going to be held. So there's going to be a certain percentage of this that's actually going to be tradable. So I want to push back on the idea of scarcity. As far as decentralization, I don't want to get on that anymore. I've talked about that so much lately. XRP ledger is more decentralized than the Bitcoin blockchain. It just is. I've talked about the technological reasons frequently enough. I don't want to get into it. A non-censorship factor. What are you talking about? Unless you are so well informed that you think, for instance, Ripple has the ability to censor transactions, like the freezing function or that. Come on. Otherwise, what are you even talking about? No, there's no censorship here. It's just using distributed ledger technology. Nobody owns the ledger. And then the network effect. Look, as far as the network effect, there's massive liquidity. Look, XRP is third in market cap. And so when we're talking about network effect, you know what everybody means when they're talking about network effect, right? Because, look, Bitcoin isn't even getting used. You talk about the network effect, you're just talking about basically, effectively what you're talking about when you say that is trade volume. That's pretty much it. Because you're not talking about utility. You sure as hell aren't talking about that, because Bitcoin's not getting used for anything, right? And XRP is just starting to get adopted for the purpose of utility. And there will always be speculation around all this, and I have no qualms with that. That's fine. But network effect, don't even talk to me about that. Take your ball and go home, Bitcoin maxi. That's it. All right, take a look at this. I'm going to try and be quick with this part, but so here's the tweet in question from the Crypto Candy. Buying XRP now is like buying Bitcoin at $10. And I just want to share with you, this is a short Twitter thread where XRP community member jumped in and was busting some FUD. So somebody named Gregors Slomkowski, I'll just call him GS for the sake of this. Gregors Slomkowski, GS. XRP is not crypto. It is centralized like fiat money. Matt Hamilton responded, "You seem to have been misled. Yes, XRP is a cryptocurrency, and no, it is not centralized. There is no central authority or point of control. That is the entire point of it. GS. No central authority or point of control. Ha ha ha, like Stellar, who burned half of their asset 2 to 3 weeks ago. Don't be funny. Everybody knows that XRP is pre-mined and Ripple Lab has 80% in their hands. All pre-mined coins are like fiat controlled by a company who creates it. Oh, Lord. Ripple didn't even create it. But anyway, Matt Hamilton responded, yes, exactly, just like Stellar. And just like Stellar, you know that ownership does not give control. So what is your point? That you don't understand how cryptocurrencies work? So, in your mind, if Grayscale burns half of their Bitcoin, it makes Bitcoin centralized? And GS responded, yes, exactly. If someone had 80% of all Bitcoins, it means for me that it is centralized. And then, the arguments like this, I'd love to get it. Okay, so, because like the devil's always in the details. Okay, so 80%, that's too much. That means that Bitcoin is centralized. What about 79%? Are we good there? 78? 75%? 60%? Is it still centralized? 50%? 40? 30? You have to arbitrarily choose a number, and these people haven't thought through it to that degree because they're not necessarily good at critical thinking. And then he said this. GS wrote, even if network/blockchain is independent, possessing more than 50% of tokens in one hand is for me centralization. I don't trust such companies because they want to sell their coins and make money one day. Matt Hamilton responded, the whole point of a decentralized network is that you don't have to trust those companies. If, for example, Ripple were to act against the interests of the rest of the community, then the majority could burn Ripple's holdings. And GS wrote, how? They can simply sell their XRP tokens on exchanges and dump the price, and many XRP investors lose everything. That's the point. And Matt Hamilton responds, but they can't just sell their XRP tokens as they are held in cryptographic escrow, which is enforced by the network. So there you go. Bitcoin maxi land, living in fantasy. I'm sorry, these people just don't know what they're talking about, so I'm glad you got people out there like Matt Hamilton squashing this nonsense. Here's a tweet from Stone Hodl XRP, which I like, so I wanted to share with you. He tagged me on this. Thank you very much, good sir, for tagging me. XRP is the gift that will change your life and give you the power to help people in your community. Well, I'll tell you what, if it goes the way that we're hoping it goes, perhaps indeed that will be true, but I like the positive tweet nonetheless. Either way. So I want to share it with you. And here's the tweet from XRP Crypto Wolf, who writes, instead of being frustrated about the low prices, you should all be happy knowing that XRP will be one of the many reasons why you retire way before the age of 65, which I can definitely appreciate. Though I will add, there are a lot of ways to retire early. Most of it has to do with spending substantially beneath your means. Like, a lot of people don't realize that you can retire a multimillionaire even if you're making a middle-class income. If you just save your whole life and don't outrageously spend, and you don't go into debt, you don't put a bunch of stuff on credit cards that you can't afford, and you nothing against anybody using credit cards or any of the examples I'm using here. I'm just saying there are ways. Buy cars in cash, for example, instead of having a car payment. And maybe that means you don't have as nice a car as you otherwise could. But think about the cars are such depreciating assets. Inside of 5 years, they lose like 70% of their value or something like that. Like an engine and 4 wheels, investing in that's a good way to turn like a lot of money into a little. So there's that. And then a lot of people overpay for school. So I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of pitfalls that people can fall in. And I wish that the concept of that, I really wish that was kind of instilled in people growing up, because I feel like I never received that message. I just got to kind of figure that out. Now I'm a 36-year-old man, and I'm very responsible with money. But I'm telling you, if you just understand how compound interest works and investing in something as unsexy as index funds, just doing that for the long haul over a span of decades, you will have millions of dollars. Even adjusting for inflation, like that's just it's a ton of money. And on the flip side, you could just run up credit card debt and pay a ton of interest. It's like the opposite of compound interest. It's anti-compound interest. And so, that being said, like XRP, if some people in the community are counting on it for a huge chunk of their retirement or all of it, and I get it, and I don't disparage you for thinking. I hope it all goes the route that we want to. For me to be safe, I'm pretending like I don't even have it. So like I keep buying it. And I really enjoy participating in the community, and I believe what I believe, and I do think that it's going to be worth substantially more than it is today. Not financial advice, but I could see XRP having a market cap in the trillions if it's genuinely globally adopted. You can imagine what that means in terms of price. but I'm not counting on it for retirement. I'm doing everything else the boring way, and like responsible investments, that type of thing. That's the route that I always like to look at things. But this is a lot more exciting and more fun to follow. I will definitely give you that. So however you look at it, whether it's just, hey, this is a piece of my retirement, or if you're like me and you're like, hey, if it becomes something great, and if not, it's not going to ruin my plan. Or for some of you out there, you just think this is it for me for retirement. I mean, there's people in all camps in the XRP community. So wherever you fall, hey, thumbs up in my book, because I'm not gonna tell you you're right or wrong about this or that, and we all feel a little bit differently about that stuff. I just thought I'd share some of my opinion on it, because I think it can go somewhere, but just in case, it's definitely not what I'm counting on. I will be just fine if this all went to zero. But again, I'm Mr. XRP Bull, so I don't think that. I'm going to be very careful the way I'm talking here. I think there's really something to this. There's a reason that I'm excited every day to research what's going on with Ripple and XRP and put out new content on a daily basis. This is why. I believe firmly there is something, that there is something to all this. And I think that we here found it early, and the rest of the world are going to find out later than us, most. And it can still be good for a lot of other people, but given how early days this is, and we understand how globally transformative this can be globally, and the way money moves around, and the implications of all this, and how many people could end up holding XRP, and what that would do to price, man, I am happy to be here right now. So that's what I think on it anyway, but you can tell me it's okay to disagree on the Moon Lambo channel. I like diversity of thought, so feel free to drop comments below. Now, last piece. IRS laughs off Coinbase users' surveillance conspiracy and tax reporting case. The United States Internal Revenue Service, IRS, has argued that its summons on major American crypto exchange Coinbase is indeed legitimate in a recent filing. Per a November 15th filing, the U.S. tax agency told a California federal court that its investigation of Coinbase customer William Zitke is completely legitimate. Zitke is attempting to quash the summons issued to Coinbase Inc. in June, which requested that they hand over his financial records pertaining to his 2016 return. Zitke claimed that the IRS's summons was too broad of a request, as it was not restricted to the 2016 tax year only. He added that the IRS wanted to obtain records that could compromise his financial and personal security if lost by the government. However, the IRS was not impressed and said in a filing that the Washington resident was unable to show any reason why the summons should not be enforced. The IRS also laughed off Zitke's vague allegations where he insinuated that the tax agency is developing a database so they can track anyone who owns virtual currency accounts. In the filing, the agency wrote, quote, "Rather than allow the IRS to summon the information it needs from Coinbase, Mr. Zitke invents an IRS surveillance conspiracy and argues that the IRS has all the relevant information it needs to determine whether he is entitled to the refund he claims. That is the limited, sometimes redacted, and ever-changing information he has provided. By the summons at issue, the IRS seeks information to do exactly what Congress charged it to do, make an accurate determination of Mr. Zitke's tax liability." So there you go. And then the IRS further explained that records beyond 2016 were necessary to determine his tax liability because Zitke claimed a refund based on transactions involving Bitcoin he obtained in 2011. And don't you love bringing government and cryptocurrencies together in this manner? It's a good time. I just found it interesting, so I thought I'd share it with you. But that is it for this video. Thank you so much for sticking around here to the end. I think you are super cool. I'm not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the Moon Lambo.